Brian, let's talk about sort of the lead time we've had. Now, today, we're getting a lot of lead time on the warnings, but we first mentioned this back at the beginning of the week. We had our eyes on this saying, oh, even last week, we were saying we're going to have to watch late next week into early weekend.
Well, we knew that we were going to have 2 rounds, one that took place last Monday morning, one this week, but we need to take it one step at a time. And then, of course, we had the ice that happened. Remember, that was just this past week as well on Wednesday. So what a week it has been. But certainly today is one that really stood out because of the wind fields are just so tremendous. I mean, this is getting to be a very powerful cyclone. We call this in low pressure terms as it moves into Canada way up to our north. But it's just feeding this kind of a system to where a lot of you had the same question. Why are we dealing with this when we don't have it, first off, a spring setup or in the summer, or better yet, we didn't get any sun today? It is unusual, and it's all been about the warmth and the moisture. Sun didn't really matter in this type of setup here. So and that's the problem, is that the wind fields and the moisture are still funneling in right now. As I'm talking to you, that is still happening. So that's why the warnings keep coming out. And until we change that moisture level in the atmosphere, we're not going to be out of the woods, and that is going to be with the cold front, and that's why we're still technically a good 4 hours or so away from that passing all the way through. And that's also the reason why you still see the warnings that are coming out, even behind all this mess, because normally this would be a very weak line and nothing going on. But the wind at times has been pretty strong. I've seen wind gusts over 50 miles per hour still with some of these cells into Indiana. So we'll still deal with another round of wind, no doubt about it. But notice certainly this big blob here is kind of trying to take over the show. Remember, just 90 minutes ago, these were all individual cells. And this is what happens when they all collide together. Now, it's good. It cuts down on the dangerous tornado threat that could be a long-lasting, long-tracked tornadoes. The exception is going to be anything on the southern edge of that, and that's exactly what we have going on right now into Greene County, into Hart County at the moment there that is moving through. So we're not out of the woods yet. I would say we're about 60% through the area. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, you know, the fact is, this winds can be pulled down to the surface with even just a general thunderstorm. So that's sort of what the problematic part is while we are dealing with one tornado warning, any of these thunderstorms that tap into those winds can bring down very strong, powerful winds to the surface. And that can happen with any rain that's passing by. So that won't end until sometime during the early morning hours on Saturday, somewhere around 6, 7, 8 o'clock. So we're technically not out of the woods until that passes by, but in the meantime, we're still having to track some of these storms showing rotation. Notice the tornado warning within the tornado warning. That's oftentimes a tornado emergency. So let's take a closer view of that, and just to see if that's indeed what we have going on. I believe it likely is. So indeed, this is a continuation. Brian, do you have any information on this warning within the warning? It would be a tornado emergency.
Yeah, I believe it was. We had a tornado debris signature on that one as it came through, so I think that's the case on it. Yeah,
it just came out. It is observed. It's confirmed. This tornado is 10 miles east of Munfordville, moving off to the east at 55 miles an hour. So we had the tornado warning. They issued a smaller one within the warning. That's it. It's on the ground. Folks in Greene County, do what you need to do. Get to the lowest level, out of the mobile homes. Call people in Greene County. Let them know. Northern parts of Taylor County, let them know. Parts of southern Marion County, let them know. I'm going to, in fact, while we're talking, and Ryan, while you have a report, I'm going to wake up a buddy of mine that's in down in Rayway.
Yeah, it's so important to call your family and friends that are going to be in this warning. The warning just issued, of course, for Greene, Taylor, and parts of Marion County. Another breaking news situation here. I-65, both directions going to be shut down between Outer Loop and Fern Valley Road here in Louisville because of power lines across the road. Tawana Andrew is live aboard the Storm Tracker, and she will be heading down there very shortly to give you an update on that situation before we look for more storm damage here. But you can see the live Trimark camera here. They're getting ready to shut down 65 because of those power lines across the road. So we've got multiple braking situations going on at the same time here that we'll continue to monitor. And folks, like I said before, if you are under a tornado warning, please, please, please observe that with the utmost respect. Please get underground if you can. If you're in a mobile home and you're under a tornado warning, you need to evacuate that mobile home immediately and go to a more sturdy structure. Kevin, I know you've been on the phone with folks trying to wake them up, get them prepared for this. Gosh, that's so important.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my best friend lives right here in southern parts of Marion County. I've got a brother that owns a store there. So we're watching this couplet. It's moving out of Hart County. It's going to move into Greene County. This is a confirmed tornado. It's on the ground, and it is going to be moving through Greene, through Taylor, and into southern Marion County. Where that goes exactly from that point, still to be determined, but you can clearly see that rotation that we're watching on the velocity. Let's take a look and see if we can see any of that debris showing up. Again, tough to tell. Doesn't look like a complete signature there, but nonetheless, we are a distance away from the radar, and that always becomes a little problematic. On the radar view, I want to point out that we still have a lot of heavy rain falling. The Hart County tornado warning will be allowed to expire. That's obviously been replaced with a much larger tornado warning. Again, it is confirmed. It is on the ground. This was located at last check about 10 miles just off to the east of Munfordville. So here's Munfordville. That storm would be right here. We've put that on with the velocity. And as we click that on, you're going to see the rotation. Now across the county line, as we, again, look at our tools, put on the draw feature, and there is the couplet that we're watching. That's the tornado. That's going to be moving off to the north and east at about 55 miles an hour. That storm's moving northeast at 55. Confirmed tornado on the ground. Tornado safe places where you have to be. This, again, is a powerful signature showing up through the velocity. The reflectivity shows it. We've seen this continue to push through. There will likely be damage from this storm. We have this storm that moved through the Bowling Green area has already knocked out power in a number of places. In fact, our Kentucky Mesonet stations have taken a hit because the power is out to the servers there. Notice here in Louisville, our wind gusts, we've been pointing that out too, 46 miles an hour. We're not ignoring anybody tonight. We're all seeing the ability for strong winds. It just so happens to our south, that is the only tornado warning that we have. Severe thunderstorm warnings are just to our northern parts of our Indiana counties, not to say that any of these back out to the west would not become severe with the potential for some very strong wind as this moves in. So parts of Monroe and Morgan counties of Indiana seeing some severe thunderstorm warnings. That's just north of us. The only warning that we have in the viewing area is to our south, and that includes not just Hart County, but extended across parts of Greene, Taylor, and into Marion County. Brian?
Yep, and that's the feed again. They're right there in that southern edge where I have highlighted more into the red. That's the fuel that is still relatively untapped. This area is very close to 70 degrees, strong wind field. So you can see how that cell kind of just grazes right along where that fuel is. And it's what's keeping that alive and keeping the rotation going to allow for that tornado to continue to touch down and go back up and likely form again and make another touchdown as it tracks there off to the east and to the northeast. So there's a reason why this is going to be just a long 1 to 2 hours ahead for those of you into Marion County and the rest of Taylor County here very soon, because at the moment, there's not at least any short-term signal here that we could see of anything that is really going to disrupt that. There's no thunderstorm cells south of there to kind of mess that flow up. So we'll still need to watch you guys carefully. Kevin's been mentioning, of course, back here into the core of the city, we had that strong wind field move through. I did check. It looks like the airport did peak, and that was about 45 minutes after 2 at about 49 miles per hour. It still had a gust at the top of the hour at 46, so very windy. And still got to keep an eye on these cells, a little more fragmented here across the Wabash Valley itself. Still can produce some of those damaging winds in a few cases. Something we need to watch too that I saw, Kevin, that the Mark in our storm tracker was mentioned earlier is how many ditches that he came across that were just full of water. And this is certainly a scenario. I mean, flash flooding risk wasn't overly high, but it can be a problem when you get repeated rounds like this. So that is something we'll have to just keep an eye on. As we always say, turn around, don't drown. But it's certainly in a time period where you can't see anything. It's the middle of the night. It's even more dangerous. And with the power lines down, like we talked about on I-65 at the moment, don't get out at all. Emergency crews really need to get out and get to the areas most hit and try to get everyone hopefully to safety there.
Tell us again where those power lines are.
It's right there. In fact, I don't know if we can punch up Trimark 1 on the feed. It may take you a second there, but the live feed is going to be right there on I-65 as you get closer to that area.
I've got it on Weather 3 here. If you want to pop up Weather 3 full, it's got the information you need about that. There you go.
Yeah, that's is that Fern Valley or Outer Loop?
Yeah, Fern Valley, between Fern Valley and Outer Loop. That is the Outer Loop camera.
Yeah, the Outer Loop
the police
cam.
lights.
Yeah, they had it aimed a second ago on the live feed showing all the backup that was in that area. But again, power lines are across the roadway. Again, that is, I mean, that's my route to home and work every day. And that is, of course, right there at the airport. We saw that surge, Kevin, where the speed wasn't that bad. I would say 20, 22 miles per hour, and then suddenly up to 48. So no doubt that surge has probably caused similar issues throughout Fern Creek, Mount Washington, and even down into Hillview as well.
All right.
Okay, they're moving
you
there.
see the cameras moving about there. We will check back in on that. Let's not ignore the folks that are under the tornado warning who are like, hey, what about us down here? We've got our sirens going off. What's happening here? Let's jump to it. I'm going to zoom in to your area again. I know this says Hart. There's really 2 tornado warnings. So let me sort of fizzle out Hart because this is for Greene as well as Marion counties and Taylor counties down to our south. So you are under the tornado warning. Again, that goes for just a bit longer. This tornado warning is until 3:45. You can see that storm is moving out of Hart and pushing into Greene and Taylor and Marion counties. There's the Raywick, there's Mack, there's Campbellsville, Greensburg, Powder Mill. You see the locations and the path of this storm. As we look at the tools on this and show you the velocity, remember that tight little couplet that we saw. Punch of wind, rotation right there. And that's what we're noting. Moving very close to Greensburg, should go just north of the Greensburg area. In fact, let's just zoom in a little tighter. I'm going to just zoom in. We'll take you right down into this storm. Anywhere between Greensburg and Mack, you're in for some strong winds. The strongest rotation is going to move near Summersville. That's right along 61. As this storm moves to the northeast at 55, it should travel right along 323, moving across the Summersville area, likely already there. Again, the radar, it takes time to process the data, and by the time these things are moving at 60 miles an hour, it's a little bit old. We can't help that. With that, let's just grab the radar. I'll point out this is the zone of the strongest rotation that we're seeing. You'll note that on the radar through the velocity. Let's grab the radar and just pan it down to see who would be next in line for these storms. Summersville, certainly. Highway 61. Moving along 323, that takes us across the county line into Taylor County near Bengal. This should take us as we move just north of Campbellsville. So White Rose, 744, 210. So this is 210, comes right down into Campbellsville. This is going to take you right through there over the course of the next 15 minutes. Fast moving, 60-mile-an-hour winds. That eventually would take you across Taylor County and put you up into parts of Marion County. There's Newmarket, there's Raywick. Loretta sits just to the north. So southern parts of Marion County would be in line as well for this storm. That's the zone that we're watching with the tornado warning. Back to the radar, seeing rain, likely hearing some lightning. The tornado warning is for parts of Greene, Hart, Marion, and Taylor counties until 3:45. That's the only warning that we have in the Wave 3 News viewing area at this point. We have additional warnings to our north across parts of southern Indiana, not in our viewing area, but just outside of severe thunderstorm warnings. And you can see those. They go up toward the Indianapolis area. Those include Bartholomew, Brown, Johnson counties. That goes until 3:30 as well this morning. Let's go back over to Brian with an update on the storm to our south.
Yeah, that's where we're keeping an eye on what looks to be, let me kind of explain what this signature is starting to show here in 2 areas of southern Kentucky. See, it's got kind of the upside down L shape. This is becoming what we call an MCS or MCV type of setup there. It's got a mini warm front and cold front. What I'm noticing on this, Kevin, in the past few moments is that it looks like we may see more of a warm front action here with this particular line. There's a bit of a jog north showing up. That may feed these storms across our southern counties here, Greene and Taylor and Adair, perhaps a little longer than you would like to see happen there, folks, down there watching. This may be a prolonged setup if that becomes like an established warm sector pushing in. Just want to make sure you guys are aware of that potential as well. And then we got now another warning down south. Is that right?
Yeah, this warning is coming in for the viewing area. It's a severe thunderstorm warning. You can see it crosses the area here. This severe thunderstorm warning with, by the way, includes Anderson, Franklin, Harrison, Henry, Nelson, Scott, Shelby, Spencer, Woodford until 3:45. Again, it's along that general area that you see
For 70-mile-per-hour winds.
for 70-mile-per-hour winds. So that's the same scenario that we were watching that moved through Jefferson County. So the storm tracker is out. Tawana Andrew on board. We're going to get a live report from her as she gets closer to. I don't even know if they can catch up with this. To be honest, it's moving so fast. But we'll check in with her and see where she's headed in just a moment. But again, 70-mile-per-hour winds possible with these storms as they move off. We have additional storms north of the viewing area, Bartholomew, Brown, Johnson. Back to the tools we go. Let's choose the velocity. We'll go back down south to choose the tornado warning that is just south of the Louisville area. So bear with me here as we sort of navigate back down across parts of Greene and Taylor counties. Again, seeing a little bit broader rotation, but still seeing it moving across that county line into Mack. This is Greene County. This is Greene County here. This is Taylor County, Marion County. All right. You're under that tornado warning. And we'll continue to see that move on to the north and east. Powerful winds now crossing over. That warning goes until 3:45. This has been an observed tornado. It was on the ground. We've had reports of damage coming out of this storm as it continues to move off to the north and east. Again, our team is here working hard. Many of us have been here for a good chunk of the day. Ryan walked in at noon today. We crossed paths. I went home, took a nap, came back. Ryan's still here tonight. Brian, you're here for sunrise, back again tonight. We'll be here early tomorrow morning. Tawana Andrew on board the storm tracker. Early call for a day off. So we got you covered. And Brian, it's not going to end anytime soon.
No, and until we get this cold front through the area, and that is absolutely key. The front moves in and we'll begin to quiet things down. But until that happens, we still have some energy here to work with, mainly in the form of the fuel that is around. We're starting to see where these, again, are becoming more straight line wind events. And I hope that trend continues as we continue to evolve as far as reducing the tornado threat. But even the straight line wind threat, I mean, I wish that would go away as well. But that is at least in many cases a little easier to track as we move through the area. But that is certainly going to be the case. Anywhere you got these bands of rain setting up, strong wind gusts will easily push into this area near 70 miles per hour. I'm going to say 60 to 70 with this batch right here moving east of Louisville. Those two areas are going to be the worst of it. And then you still, of course, got the little notch right in between there. That is where we've had that rotation occur, right where the line begins to bend. And you got both ideas at play. That's the reason why you get that spinning motion there at its elbow, if you will, as it passes through. And that's until that goes away, that's the threat we need to watch out for, certainly over the next 1 to 2 hours.
We've been on the air nonstop since midnight tonight. It's 3:20. We're not going anywhere anytime soon with the tornado warning to our south. And even with the threat of those 70-mile-per-hour winds, we're going to stay on the air. I'm going to zoom this out just a bit so we can see a broader view for folks that may be in the path of this saying, well, what about me? I zoomed it in. Let's see if we can get a little bit broader of a picture. With that said, we know that areas across parts of well, here we go, way in. Sorry, let me just go back to the home view. Sometimes it's easier just to go home. All right, let's zoom back in. So we grab it, and there we go. So again, the only warning that we have in the terms of tornado warning is the area to our south. That's the moving across Greene and pretty much now into Taylor County, eventually pushing up into southern parts of Marion County. That's the tornado warning that we've been watching. In addition to that, and something I want to do is lift up into the severe thunderstorm warning, because with that, while it's not a tornado warning, the threat with these winds, and you heard Brian mention that sometimes they're easier to track. The bad news is it impacts a lot more people. Like a tornado is fairly compact and small. You get it, you can get some damage out of it. Something like this, it's a wall of wind, and it can really impact a lot of folks. So when we look at the velocity on just this line itself, I mean, that's an intense line of wind right there. Let me draw it on, and then we'll sort of go in. From Peeks Mill through Franklin, right down through the Bloomfield area. That area of wind is impressive. That is a strong push of straight line winds that will likely do damage. 60, 70 mile per hour winds certainly possible along that line. Let me zoom into some of those locations that may be along that line, and we'll just work our way down from Franklin County. So there's Peaks Mill. You can see you're going to move through Harveyland over into the Bryant area. I'm going to pan down this intense area of wind as we move through Franklin County. We go past Bryant. We're going to work our way through the Benson area. We come to the county border. This takes us over into Waddy. There's Peytona. You know, everybody knows where the racetrack is. This moves right across 395. Very strong.
New tornado warning. It's extended out a little more east there.
Okay, and let me just go to it because this is going to include the rest of Marion County. So this includes now Anderson, and Franklin, and parts of Shelby and Spencer counties. So now Lebanon, over into the Lebanon area, the extreme southern part of Washington County would be in that. So you're seeing this is for the severe thunderstorm warning to the north. Let me move that. It's sort of confusing, I know. So let me just grab that, move it, and then we'll see if we can't trigger the warning for the tornado.
And that is still listed as being observed, by the way.
Yes.
With that update, okay.
So we see that Boyle, Marion, Mercer, and Washington, and that goes until 4 a.m. So the warning, again, getting extended. Let's take a look why. Again, when we looked at the velocity on this, we could clearly see, and yet even more defined now than before, is the velocity on the tornado warning that's moving across Taylor County. Look at that couplet. This storm likewise has had a history of producing damage. It's an observed tornado. That is on the ground. This is Campbellsville, just north of you. This will move into southern Marion County. Again, if you have friends or family in those areas, please let them know what's happening. A storm that is intense on radar and likely showing up on the ground, confirmed near Campbellsville, moving northeast at 55. Going to take it, and again, you see the tornado warning within the warning, oftentimes an indication of a tornado emergency, something that really deserves attention, meaning, hey, we've got a tornado on the ground. Important. Wake up. Get in your tornado safe place. This is a dangerous situation. You've got to be in your tornado safe place. Brian?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the fields, and again, it's right there on, it's like 744 south of Findlay. It looks like to be the closest rotation of that. Most folks, when they travel into at least Campbellsville area, come in from the Louisville area, do travel in from 210, but certainly right into that range. I got the warning off, so let me see if I can get an idea of some of these, at least wind fields we've got near it at the moment, and this may not be completely accurate, but overall roughly about 95 to 100 miles per hour is what we're getting is the potential wind field that we have right there over the Hobson area. It's like 269 or is it 289?
It's 289.
289, thank you. Sorry, my eyes are not that great, but it is moving quickly. I mean, this is one of those. This is probably I would say the most intense rotation we've seen on any of them tonight. Is that right?
It
in our
is.
area?
I think so. You know, we've saw the reflectivity look better on a couple of them, but this is certainly the greatest couplet that we've seen on velocity. We'll wait another scan to see if we see anything on the correlation coefficient. That's the debris.
I'll try to loop this over the past hour here. Let me see if I can get an idea of how that looked. Let me kind of do it slowly. Let me rewind it. You'll be able to see how it moves in. And then, yeah, it started to really, Brian was looking at this a few seconds ago, and you really see it tighten up right there. And now, it is a little less defined, not dramatically enough to certainly let the guard down, but it's looks like it's tracking just south of the New Market area there.
And that's just right across the border into Marion County.
Yep.
This will go just south of Lebanon, which is the largest population of Marion County. That'll take it right up towards 68 and should approach perhaps near Bradfordville and as you work your way farther along 68 there. So again, this is where we were looking. Right like that is where it's going to go. Track it right over toward the Danville area. So again, powerful storm showing up on radar, showing up on the ground. It is confirmed. We have a tornado that deserves attention. Everyone along that path should be in your tornado safe place at this point. Back to the radar we go. When we say the reflectivity, that's this. It sort of gives us a measure of the intensity of what's falling, heavy rain, of course. But what gives us a better view of what's happening in the storm is the velocity itself. This is winds both toward and away from the radar. You start to see some of those colors side by side, sort of wrapped around one another, if you will. That gives us an indication of where we have that strong rotation. We see that very close to the Findlay area, moving right across that county border toward the Newmarket area, 68, over toward Peck Ford, over toward north of the Bradfordsville area. Ryan, what do you have?
Okay, now this has a tornado debris signature just popped on the scan here, and it is a mean one. This is moving toward the US 68 Newmarket area, just crossing the Marion County line. Now get in your safe place immediately. This is a tornado in progress.
We see it clearly. It is something that we have had spotters refer that say it's observed. We've noted the velocity to show the couplet, and now as Ryan pointed out, on the debris detection, we can see that blue showing up. That is where the radar sees essentially something that says, hey, this should not be here. This is some type of debris that it's seeing, and whether that's tree limbs, which typically may not show up quite this bright. Typically, it could be metal that's in the air. It's showing something that's being lofted into the air that means there's likely the tornado on the ground, which we've been saying all along. So right toward the Findlay area, moving toward Newmarket, Peck's Ford, this will be the area of concern as we track this storm just on the south side of Lebanon as it moves across the county border. It's there now. Again, when we go back to the velocity, you're going to see what we're talking about. Strong couplet showing up in this general area. Tornado warning in place. Sirens sounding. So south of St. Mary's. Loretto, you're okay. Raywick, you're okay. Lebanon, you are not okay. You are going to be very close to this track. For folks on the south side of Lebanon, you have to take cover. Your tornado shelter is the place to be. Sallytown, you can see this storm is going to go right between you and Lebanon. So you've got to be prepared to see how this sort of broadens out over the course of the next few minutes. It's fast moving. It's moving at about 55 miles an hour off to the north and east. Marion County, get in your tornado safe place if you're in the tornado warning. That includes areas between Lebanon and Sallytown. Moving right across Newmarket now, Peck Ford is next in line. Brian?
Yeah, I'm trying to put a storm track. I'm going to do that real quick on some of the towns. You already listed quite a few of them. Let me try to get a little more of a pinpoint on that with it tracking at that speed. As long as it holds that speed of about 55 miles per hour, what we'll do is I'm going to broaden this out just a bit and even include for those who are right on the edge there of wave country that are watching us right now on streaming. So if that current track that we've been noticing in the northeast jog here, this is just saying the next, let's go next 30 minutes. This will be right around Bradfordsville at 11 minutes from now. Jacktown at about 18 minutes. Gravel Switch 19 minutes from now. And the Perryville area at 27 minutes from this very moment. As the current time it will be as far as it holding time. Now notice the window gets a little wider the further it goes out. That's just to give us some wiggle room in case there's any shifting of that core of that tornado, which does happen from time to time.
We're going to keep it with the tornado warning coverage here to our south with such a broad couplet. This is a dangerous situation. We have a number of other staff that are out. Tawana's in the storm tracker. We will eventually get to her. We've got power lines down where I-65 sort of shut down in places because of some power lines. We'll get to that momentarily. But because of what's happening with this unbelievable rotation showing up, a tornado is on the ground. This is now across southern parts of Marion County, south side of Lebanon. You are going to be impacted by this storm as it moves through Newmarket and Peck Ford over toward Bradfordville. This storm is moving fast, 55 miles an hour. There's no question we have a tornado. It is on the ground. It has been observed by spotters. We continue to see this move near the Newmarket area. So that is the zone that we're watching. It's the only tornado warning that we have. Frankly, it's the only warning. Well, no, we have the severe thunderstorm warning. Let me go back to the radar view. Let me point out, I don't want to ignore the 70-mile-per-hour winds we do have across parts of the viewing area to our north. You see the severe thunderstorm warning. That includes areas mainly east of Louisville at this point. We've had our strongest winds. Now we continue to watch the storms move through parts of Shelby, Spencer, and Franklin counties. This has the potential to produce some 70-mile-per-hour winds on its own right. So that's a zone we're also watching. We've been keeping an eye on that and haven't had any reports of damage, but damage reports are hard to come by in the middle of the night. That's moving through with some strong winds, anywhere from I-75 over toward the Shelbyville area down into northeast Nelson County, and then you go one set of counties farther to the south. That's where you get the tornado warning down across parts of Marion County. That will continue southern Washington County and into parts of the Danville area, Boyle County. So that's an area of concern when we see the tornado warning with such a signature showing up on the radar. Again, when you look at the warning information, it's observed. Its warning expiration time is 4 a.m. We're 30 minutes away from that. We check the velocity. We can see that incredible rotation. We check the debris potential, and you're going to notice that that shows up as well. A little less defined than it was, but it's clearly still there. This is southern Marion County, not far from Sallytown, pushing over toward the Gravel Switch area, Bradfordsville. That's an area of concern. Ryan, what do you have?
Yeah, I got a report from Taylor County here. A tornado did indeed touch down. Folks have seen it. It's in the Feather Creek area. So that's with that storm that has the current tornado in the Newmarket area right now. When it was in northern Taylor County, just gives more credence to the fact that this thing is still on the ground, still doing damage, Kevin.
Oh, and I tell you, it can do some major damage at night. It's why you have to be in your tornado safe place, the lowest level, away from those windows. Seek shelter. Let the storm pass. There will be time to check things out after we get the storms past us. But again, you can see some of the debris still showing up. That's what Ryan pointed out, that is what the radar tells us. When we look at the velocity on this, I'm going to point out one more time that is a strong couplet moving on the south side of Lebanon, way too close for comfort to a very populated area. Let me zoom in just a little bit more on this, and as we go in a little closer, I'll point out, and I'm just going to take it real tight inside here, and you can see that couplet. It's just off now to the east of 68 and sort of bounded by 208. Peck Ford, Calvary, there's Lebanon. This is the zone that's going to be impacted highly by this. Calvary.
Bradfordsville is in a bad spot there.
Bradfordsville is as well. Yes, it's next in line. And in fact, as we note that the radar takes a little bit of time, we don't want to be behind on warning you. So Bradfordville, Pennock, over toward Riley, this storm should continue its northeast movement at about 55 miles an hour. The bulk of it's going to go just south of Lebanon. Some good news for those folks. Bad news for Peck Ford. It's over you. Bradfordville next in line. Pennock and Riley over toward Gravel Switch eventually. And Brian, show us that velocity that you're looking at, and then let's take a look at some of the velocity even here in the metro, or areas to the east of the metro, really.
Yeah, you got it. And again, some of the colors you're looking at, we're looking for the brighter colors, really is the idea, that are next to each other, where they're, in this case, it's the brighter of the greens, certainly when you get into the light blue shade and then you get into the reds. That is where you got the strongest of winds taking place, and that's where we're seeing that rotation right in through here. But again, it takes a while for the radar to do a complete scan of the atmosphere, and then we get an updated image. With these movements, it's 55 miles per hour. It is likely already at least here. And the next time we probably get an update from the Weather Service, I got a feeling it's going to be right here over Bradfordsville itself. So it likely, in Bradfordsville, you likely already hear the wind outside, and at Peck Ford, it's already over you at this point based on the timing of that. And we'll just see how this moves northeast here, right along 337 and right on the southern side there of Gravel Switch. As far as the metro goes here locally, we're still watching those strong winds to the east. They've come down a bit. That's some good news. Same storyline to the west, and I'm seeing him as strong. It's really the main show. I mean, look how much that sticks out on a wide view, is that small little area. And it looks tiny, but when they're that small like that, it also tells you that that thing is spinning like crazy and doing the damage, and that we don't want to have happen. And I just hope everyone's safe. I hope everyone was already in their safe spot. And let's hope for the best here, Kevin, on this one.
You know,